Good evening and welcome to the Sunday evening Sheetalnath Conversation Show. My gratitude to all the valuable viewers who are overwhelmingly responding and adoring and following this program, these special historic conversations very regularly. Here in this program, I think there's a slightly difference. It has cut across the conventional concept of conversations. It's not like that quite immediate, quick question and answer session. It's more of a broader understanding. Invoking the indelible, deeper sensibilities and recapturing the roots through wonderful anecdotes from the native land and interesting anecdotes and enchanting anecdotes by programmed by the great personalities and the luminaries who come to this program Sunday after Sunday. So we can just begin from here, and now to recapture the colors and bonhomie of the past. We definitely gather here every week. Today, again, we are going to start from a different people from different walks of life come here. Uh, I'm going to start today and telling you that today we are going to talk about the theater. And the theater is a very wide subject. Theater is a intrinsic and inseparable part of human existence. Our living forms, even lullabies by the mothers, and even our temples, the circumambulation of the temples, the stairs of the temples, the galleries of the temples. It has been traditionally, written in the scriptures as well. These were used to present the theaters in those times. They were not exactly religious kind. They were kind of a spiritual and folk and culture mixed kind of a things used to happen. And entire India is filled with these stories of the temples. Invasions ultimately destroyed many of these. In Kashmir we have very limited ones, but then again we have the great commentaries by Shamendar, and we have the many stories about these. Katha Sahit Sagar tells us about these gans, the gans happening in the this not open auditoriums of temples. So that's how it is, and it has been probably the theater has become very conspicuous, especially after the colonial rule, British colonial rule came to India. Victoria and the Alfred theater companies, they came along and they brought this proscenium theater. Before that, we had in Ranbir Singh's time, Maharaja Ranbir Singh brought these. In those times, there was this Rasdaris used to come from Vrindavan and Ayodhya, and they used to perform in the stage in the state, and they had the huge paraphernalia, makeshift stages. They used to create the lights and everything. So that had an impact our our cultural and this journey of theater in Kashmir. And also, in his times, in Ranveer Singh's time only, these Ramlila parties came from probably Ayodhya. They came from Ayodhya, and it was more sophisticated. It was not exactly religious, but it was more of a moralistic kind of a education they used to give, plus entertainment. And it was patronized by the kings and the courtiers and the emperors in those times. And this times, then we had another era came in after this advent of Victoria and Alfred companies, which initially started in Chennai, then in Calcutta, and then in Madras. Earlier it was restricted to the British audience only, and later on expanded because Parsi community had a great role to play in the economy of the country. So then the Parsi theater began, and Parsi theater was one of the greatest theaters which was used to happen in those times. In Bombay, we had the great actors like Michael Maksudan, our one Kashmiri fellow from Banaras, Aga Hassan Kashmiri's place. They used to run for 9 hours together, and they were the great heroes. They were like the film heroes of those times. But then the silent movies came in, and everything changed. Those cinema halls changed, and everything. Even during the descent of this program, we'll be talking about all these aspects. When Prithviraj Kapoor, he along with his troupe came with this Parsi theater, and Parsi theater was part of the Ramlila as well. And I think Kashmir, we had the Ramlila, like in Jammu, we had the Ramlila. We have the traditions of the Ramlila theatre. And our customs, you see, Pan is a story, it's a storytelling, Pan, Gadbat, Pan. Mandap is there in our marriages. We have mandaps and all that. All this paraphernalia. And the birth of drama, the first chapter of dramaturgy, which was one of the most ancient dramaturgy of the world, rather, that is Bharat Muni's Dati Shastra. Its first chapter gives the birth of the drama, and it gives a description of very, very colossal, very, very big paraphernalia, stagecraft, and the auditoriums, and the geometrics, and the rules, and the audience, and sophistication, urban sophistication, grammar, and everything around. And it was one of our Kashmiri fellows, the great genius, this Abhinav Gupta, who, I mean, translated finally this Bharat Muni's Natya Shastra into Abhinav Bharti. And Abhinav Bharti is considered to be one of the easiest, because Bharat Muni's Natya Shastra was very difficult, because it was considered to be the fourth Veda. And the story goes on, and all these movements started going. Then we had the JK Academy and the post independence period. We're going to talk about all these wonderful aspects of theater, how it happened in Kashmir. We had great people, great personalities. Some of them are awarded, some of them are forgotten. But yes, we know about one great movement in those times that was happening in Shival, and later in Sheetalnath as well. And we had the great people like Dinanath Nadim, who also brought the opera culture of opera, is again part of the theater, because is this Indian concept of theater is the completeness of theater, it has all rasa, all bhavs, shringar, I mean, gayan shali, I mean, rangpatti, all these concepts are there. So everything, even the opera is a theater. So these things have happening. Even it will be out of the way to mention here that even Brecht, they say that he has derived his theater of alienation and epic theater from the Indian drama. So I will not be talking much, because we have a very special guest today. We are privileged to have one of the pioneers of one of the illustrious theater movements of Kashmir of 1960s to 80s, Shri Ashok Jailkhani ji. He was the very, I mean, inseparable ingredient of this movement. He was a pioneer of this movement. At a very, very young age, he started this theater movement. And besides that, he is an eminent broadcaster, a broadcaster who is known to take the great challenges, who has, I mean, worked in a very, very challenging positions across the country for Doordarshan. And he is a very wonderful author. He is giving back to the society what he has learned. This is very rare. This is very gentlemanly. This is a very rare occasions. People normally, they become a bureaucrat and they rise to the powers. I forgot to mention that he retired as the additional director general of Prasar Bharati Corporation of India. Very, very top position, very, very on the echelons of power. But yet again, he is grounded. He is related with his theater movement. He writes. He has written the books for the theater. I wish that he writes a play as well. And what to talk about Ashok ji? I mean, be it the grappling with the stagecraft of 1960s and 70s, romanticizing with that stagecraft direction. I mean, creating the literature, understanding the literature, then directing actors, preparing actors, maybe in a proscenium theater way, maybe in a Stanislavski way. But it was very pioneering work in that time. People used to be thronging to see the plays, especially Ashok ji, because he was probably the one of the best actor awards he got, and he was totally into it. So, and besides that, he was also considered for many, many challenging assignments, like upgrading the stations of Doordarshan to their requisite levels, or initiating new centers and to their eminence and to their prerequisite level. All these aspects show indelible, genius of Ashok Jailkhani ji. So I will not be going talking much about it. Let's talk to the legend himself. He is with us today. So let's welcome Sri Ashok Jailkhani ji, the legendary theatre personality, the great broadcaster, the great author, into our show. Ashok ji, you are welcome into the 47th Sheetalnath Conversation Show. It's a privilege to have you with us.
Thank you, Jugalji. I'm really delighted to be on your platform. And in fact, we had been planning it for earlier, but it got postponed due to some reasons. And it is always a privilege to talk to you because you are so engrossed into, and passionate about theater. And whenever we have spoken, even informally, you have in-depth knowledge. You have read a lot, and like in your intro, you gave a detailed intro of theater in Kashmir and a fleeting glance in of what was in India and rest of the world. So that part you left very little for me to say, but for people who have joined us
No,
just in
but
the past.
I'll once again thankful to you that you finally, it's your magnanimity that you, I mean, you have so much of affection in your heart, because I'm a theater, we have spent our life in theater, writing theater criticism and doing theater. But I was always fascinated by you. Whenever I used to go to Kashmir, I had seen you. Even I remember the 1985, when probably you were station director or assistant station director. I did my first Kashmiri theater article, and you guided me the entire article. Content basically belongs to what you said. So it's again an honor to find you in our show. But before we start, I would like to say, as per this wider scope of paradigm and structure of this Shitalath conversation, is because it's basically an anecdotal one program, and it connects us to the roots, especially the youngsters. So we bring back the stories of Kashmir, the personality whosoever comes, we bring. So let us open up to your childhood. Let us see the
Yeah,
through your prism. Let us see your childhood, your street. You were born in Ali Kadal, and then the family and the friends and the other people around, the bonhomie, the culture, all the aspects of your childhood, then school and college.
yeah.
Please.
So, Jugalji, I was born in 1953 in Ali Kadar, precisely Bodhgaya, which is many our viewers would connect, which is very adjacent to the shrine of the great saint Rishbir Sahib.
Rishmi.
Rishbir Sahab's shrine, just adjacent to that, we a group of families called Jailkhanis. Maybe we were 8 or 10 houses together in a block, and they were all distant cousins, and just one small group which were called Jailkhanis. Incidentally, that this surname is a little peculiar. Uh, Possibly, what I was told by my grandfather is that one of our ancestors was working as a jailer somewhere, sometime.
Oh,
So that jailer became Jailkhani. Actually, we are supposed to be Rajdans. So this is
oh,
just one interesting aspect how the nicknames have converted into surnames. There are many other examples in Kashmir about these
yeah.
nicknames, very typical of Kashmir. So I was born in Bodhgaya, and luckily, my father, of course, was educated. He was working in Accountant General's office, AG's office. My mother was educated. She was when I think there was around when I grew up. She was a teacher,
Oh,
and eventually she retired as inspectress of schools and district education officer.
district
So
education.
having in those times, 53, 60s, having an educated mother will definitely leave some impact on you. And some of my parents managed to get me admission in CMS Bisco School, which was then the most prestigious school in
One of
Kashmir.
the prestigious
There were
ones.
only two
Prestigious.
Christian schools. One was Burnhall and another was CMS Bisco. So I don't know how they managed. So they got me admitted in, I think, from second onwards, I was a student of Bisco School. Now the life, in Kashmir, those times was little difficult. Difficult in the sense that till about, I would say, early 80s,
Hmm.
the long winters, the problems with the winter, communication problems, transport
Yeah.
problems, electricity problems. There were days when you wouldn't get electricity for 4 days, 5 days. So as young people, we were used to, studying under a lantern or something like that. very cold and harsh winters, and then no sense of entertainment. Radio was a luxury. Transistor came much later, which became a status symbol for a long time if somebody owned a transistor.
Yeah, that was
So
there.
yeah, so but life carried on. But though we were in a, what you call a Kashmiri Pandits were in a very small minority. It was predominantly a Muslim area, but we never felt during our childhood anything like, a kind of a division or some kind of difference, because Muslims used to come. The Dudwala was a Muslim who supplied us doodh. The person who bought rations from the ghat was a Muslim. So he would come inside, sometimes have tea. And as we grew up, we never have had this feeling of Hindu Muslim or we're different. And
Was
in
not
fact,
there.
we never thought about it, this aspect. Till the time I remember that Parmeshwari episode happened,
67.
uh, sometimes in 60s. So that was the time, the kind of protest and the kind of the charged atmosphere around. That kind of there was a kind of a fear, hidden fear in the minority community. Something may happen. The anger
Yeah,
may be vented upon us. So that time, gradually, this Hindu-Muslim thing started creeping in our minds.
first time.
First time. And because when I was in school, I had very close friends, were Muslim friends. I used to go to their houses. They used to come to my place. In fact, on occasions, I used to stay there for the nights also. And but these two incidents, which to sum it up, two incidents. One was this Parmeshwari episode, and then later on, when that Moe Mukaddas thing happened, when it got
Okay.
misplaced, and we saw the protests, we saw the agony, we saw the anger on the streets, and being a minority, where everyone was terrified. So that kind of uh, made me also conscious about the division, about the people having different approaches, people having different faiths, kind of that thing. And but the life overall was very beautiful. Jugalji, one interesting aspect connected with my
Yes.
childhood is River Jhelum. So we
Ah,
were in Bagher, Ali Kadal, and our nearest temple, just walking distance, was Bhatiyar Mandir. And
okay.
my maternal side, my mother's family, lived in Narparistan, just ahead of Fateh Kadal, and their house was on the banks of Jhelum, just to the river bank. So the mode of transportation going to Habakadal or Lal Chowk initially was only Tangas, and the tempos and minibuses came much later. So for getting a Tanga to go to Matamal, I had to go to Zanakville to walk to Zanakville, which was about half a kilometer from Aligarh. So the better option was taking a boat from Bhatiyar Mandir. So I remember those. Those are very inched in my. Those images are very deeply inched in my mind. So with my mother sitting in that shikara, and that shikara wala very nicely, driving us upstream, taking us
Go
boating, upstream to Narparistan, I mean Habakadal side. And during those days, frequently that Jhelum was, lots of tourists, particularly foreign tourists, British tourists, used to visit Kashmir, and they would have a shikara ride on the Jhelum. And we would encounter those, white, fair-skinned ladies and men. We were in awe. And if you remember, on the banks of River Jhelum, those shukaras carrying those Britishers or foreigners from whichever country they belong, the Hanji boys on the banks used to try to run after those boats, and that Gulami was so etched in our psyche. They would say with pride, without realizing what we are saying, they would shout, "Mem Saab Pakan Pat Pat Gulam, Mem Saab Pakan Pat Pat Gulam." This was the kind of thing. So, but one interesting incident I would tell you, I remember about this ride. Once I was going with the mother in that shikara, and from the other side, a couple British or a foreigner was in the other shikara. So that gentleman had a camera. So
Okay.
he was probably he liked the visual of some sari clad woman, carrying a child in her lap. I was not very small. I was 4 or 5 years old then, but somehow I was lying on her lap, and he wanted to click a photograph. So
Okay.
he asked the shikara wala to come nearer to our shikara, and he came and he just gestured to my mother, indicating that I want to click a photo. So my mother immediately responded in English. She said, "Do you want to take a photograph? Come, come." And my God, he was startled. He could have.
Educated,
Again,
educated
somebody
lady.
talking to him in English, a lady which he thought must be an illiterate one in a remote area of Kashmir, downstream in River Jalib. So anyway, he took. So this memory is very, clear in my mind, very vivid. So those were the days, and
And you had Ashokji, you too had these this Daryai Jalus like Bulganian and could show when
yes,
he
yes,
came,
yes, 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 yes,
Nehru
yes,
ji
yes.
came,
Then
Maharaja came.
Bakshi Ghulam Ahmad used to have Jashn Kashmir. There would
Okay.
be a huge boat procession on River Jhelum. As I told you, my Matamal was on their house was on the just on the bank, and
Okay.
as the tradition used, a child would often go to Matamal and stay there for days.
Yeah.
And I used to be on the river bank most of the time, passing my time watching these foreign tourists coming, or the celebrations like Jashn Kashmir and things like that, or that houseboats, carrying the huge kinds of ration and wood. Those were very beautiful and very unique sights.
Um,
So that was it. And then, as I told you, I generally, on the whole, it was a nice childhood, barring the difficult part of life, which every Kashmiri had to face. Yeah, no power, no road. For 6 months, life would be standstill. You couldn't do anything except trying to keep yourself warm. That's all. And not even bare minimum facilities. And as you know, the road would from Jammu Srinagar road would get blocked for 6 days, 7 days. There would be no subsidy, no vegetable, nothing. So as the tradition is still there, now they do it for delicacy. We used to, keep dry out the vegetables in summer for to
yeah,
carry out
dry
in
vegetable.
that Hoxton tradition is still carrying
That
on.
still continues. Yeah.
More for taste. That time it was a necessity. Now it
Now
has
it's a
become
day.
a part of our cuisine. So all those aspects, but overall you know the atmosphere was. Our house was. I could see the Hari Parvat, Sharika Mandir from the third story of my house, very clear.
Oh,
Yeah,
beautiful.
and early morning, we could hear the bells, temples, azan. Overall, a very congenial, very atmosphere, and then the breeze of Kashmir,
Ah,
unpolluted, then greenery. All this was lovely, which we long for, which is so deeply etched in us. And sir, now, so I was happy with my schooling in Bisco School,
yeah. Satlar
and
Razdan was there. Satlar Razdan and other teachers. Did any
your
teachers?
your your voice is getting distorted, Jugalji. I don't get your. There's some distortion in your voice.
Satlar Razdan ji was there. Satlar
And
Razdan and
आपकी
other.
आवाज में कुछ इको सा आ रहा है जुगल जी कुछ there's something wrong.
I don't know. I'll put off this phone maybe because
Now
of
it's
phone.
okay. Yeah,
I was
yeah.
saying that Satlar Razdan ji and other great teachers you
Yes, yes.
had.
I'll come to
He's our
So
relative also.
we had great teachers, especially you mentioned about Satlal Razdanji.
Yeah.
Satlal Razdanji was my pet teacher, though he was very strict, very hard disciplinarian, and he was the house teacher of these Biscuit School boys were divided into 4 houses named on the
Okay.
mountains of Kashmir: Kolahai, Tatakoti, Mahadev, Harmukh.
Harmon.
So
Yeah.
our house, Harmukh, yeah, the students were divided in these 4 houses. named on the mountains of Kashmir: Arbuk, Mahadev, Tratkoti, and Kolhai. And Satalji was our, house teacher. And
Okay.
I was very fascinated by his personality, childhood impression about a teacher. And, once I remember, that time I was in 8th or 9th, just one interesting episode. He was sent to UK by the school for some course or, exchange, as an exchange for 6, 7 months. So till that time, in Kashmir, young boys, mothers used oil over hair and, nicely combed and put a lot of oil and all that. So were the teachers. It was a general trend. So was Mr. Satlal. So when he went to UK and he came after 6 months, he stopped using oil. His hair used to be shampooed and dried, only dried, no oil.
Oh,
And then
change.
he would scold us. What is this oil and all that stuff? This nonsense. So actually we stopped. Then we thought, yeah, hair can be managed without oil also. So that was his. And I have I had kind of a very emotional connect with him, which I'll come to you later. And his son, the famed neurologist, Dr.
Yeah.
Sushil Razdan, he was also in Biscu school, but he was senior to us by 1 or 2 years.
Okay.
So he was in the same school, but he was senior to us. So before I forget about the Satlar Razdan, much later, when I was director of Jammu Doordarshan, and we had no contact, I had lost contact with Mr. Satla after I left the school and all that. So once I was walking on foot in Talab Tulu, Jammu, and I noticed Mr. Satlal ji was on the other side of the road. He also saw me. So I just stopped. I wanted to go and pay respects to him. And believe me, I got so emotional. He didn't allow me to cross the road. He crossed the road
Arey.
and hugged me. Yes, it was. And he said that I see you on television. I hear your name. I'm so proud of you. You have made us all proud and this, that, that, that. Then later on, during the last stages of his life, he was not keeping well. And he would forget things. He was, kind
Yeah.
of Alzheimer's or something.
Alzheimer.
Yeah. And after 2, 3 years, 1 or 2 years, I went to Mr. Sushil Razdan along with some patient for medical consultation. He had his clinic on the top floor of the house. And when he saw me, he knew me. We met very warmly. And you know what he said? He said, please, if you are free, go down and sit with my father sometimes. He remembers you occasionally so much. He names only you. That
Arey.
was such an emotional moment for me. And
Great.
he took me down. He came, Dr. Suchita Azad took me down. Mr. Satlalji was sitting in a corner. So faintly he could recollect and remember, and Sushil was trying to tell him that he is Ashok Jailkhani and this, that. So that was a very emotional moment for me. So anyway, so till I
Did you
passed A,
swim? Did you
but
swim? And because the Kashmir was a land of water bodies, did you
yeah,
swim? Where you
yeah,
swim?
yeah, yeah. I swam because Biscu school, it is compulsory to know swimming. That was the only school initially in Kashmir which had a swimming pool.
Okay.
And there used to be a swimming period once a week for every class, right from second primary.
That is so great.
So it was almost compulsory to learn swimming. And then every week, once, probably Wednesdays, it used to be regatta. They used to take us to Dal Lake. The school had its own boats, its own boat sheds. So then, once you learned the swimming, then they would put you on boats and have you go for boat races. Then
That
from
is
if you cross the swimming pool, pass that test, then they would put you in Dal Lake for 1 mile. If you pass that 1 mile, then they would take you for 4 miles up to Charge Nari, and then eventually Dal Cross. This was an early event, but
very nice.
somehow I never went beyond 1 mile. I could never be, I couldn't sustain with stamina to swim, but I knew swimming. So swimming, actually, Biscu school, basically, there was less focus on studies,
More
more
on
focus
this
on extracurricular activities.
cross
Biscu school was
country
known
race.
for
Yeah. Cross
cross-country
country.
race, boating, trucking, uh, camps, and once I'll tell you, the early morning we didn't know where we were going. It was a kind of a picnic. They took us to Kangan,
Kangan.
and we descended from the bus, and there was a hill like this. They said you
Oh,
have to climb this hill. It was very steep, and when we started climbing this hill, the problem was the hill had only dry grass. There was no support, and it was quite steep. So you go up, you hold the dry grass, it comes in your hands, and you fall down.
oh my
So
God.
it was terrible. The worst truck. I have done many trucks. That was the most difficult one, almost in tears. But what I'm saying, the surprise it was, finally this year that way with great effort and difficulty, when we managed to reach the top, then we only had to descend. And lo and behold, when we descended, we were in Harvan.
Arre.
Yeah, that was the charm of that truck. They didn't tell us. So, actually, the founder of Biscu School, that was Eric Biscu,
Tindal biscuit.
he had drawn a map of Kashmir. I don't think the government even had that. He had traveled extensively in Kashmir. He knew every hill where it starts. So from that maps, our school used to fix itineraries for camps and trekkings and this. They used to take us to Mahadev and this and that. So this one was fantastic. We start from Kangan and we land in Harvard. And there the buses were waiting and we sat in the buses and back. So that was
How
cool.
was how,
But
wa- how was the family celebrations happening? Like family celebrations, outing, family picnic, family celebrations. Did these
family
things work?
picnic outing, because one, we were very close, as I told you, we were very close, living near to Hari Parbat. So Navre was our fixed, because it is very near to us. So Navre, we had early morning, taking a bath, wearing new dress, new clothes. We would go to that Badam Bagh,
Badam Bagh.
and then you would have that blossoms of almonds coming, and then
Badam flower.
gur, it would start and we would eat. That was a regular one. Then visiting Kherwani shrine twice a year at least. At
Donga
least.
cruise. Donga cruise.
Yeah. Donga also, and by
Okay.
bus also. Family, as a family, these were the, going to Hari Parvat maybe twice, thrice a year, and Kherwani twice, thrice a year. That was main. And I was lucky that my grandfather was in forest. He was a forester. And till the time I was 8, 9, he was still in service. So he would be posted in some village far out, Raithan, Badgam, Shupian. So during summer break, I used to go to those places, do a lot of horse riding, play with cattle, kinds of things, loiter in forests. Because it was totally different world for us. When from a city you step into a forest, and the life there, the food we would get to eat, makki ki roti and things like that.
All the
And
things
the whole
together.
taste of the food would be decorative, freshness. So that was uh, family side. And now, while I was studying till about 8, 9, I had no interest, never thought of acting or direction or drama or film or theater or something. So it so happened, I think I was in class 9th or 10th. Some play happened in the school. Some senior boys were asked to do some English play. So we were just in the audience. So that kindled a little interest after watching a play in the auditorium for the first time in my life. So that kindled some kind of interest in me.
Okay.
So subsequently, I heard that they are planning to produce one more play, and they were trying to select boys. So I went mustering a little courage, and I told the teacher, "Sir, I also want to participate." So I don't know whether they gave me a dialogue or audition, something like that. I don't remember that, but they dismissed me. They didn't give me a chance. So I was dismissed. So yeah.
It
So
happens with
anyway,
all the geeks. Like Nasiruddin Shah, Amitabh Bachchan, they all be Lata ji.
so I was dismissed. Anyway, so after that, I forgot about it. And then while I was in school, that time, during our time, there was no PUC, there was to be elective, till 11th you were in school, not 12th, 11th. That was known as higher secondary elective. So that was around 68 or 69. That one incident or one chance changed everything. Normally in our families, my mother, my father, parents, they wanted to see me as a doctor. That time doctor and engineer, these were the only two options. So when I went to college, they forced me to take science subjects, full medical subjects also. Anyway, that part I'll come later. So this part, when I was still in school, 68, 69, I didn't even know that in Kashmir, in Srinagar, there is something called Tagore Theatre, Tagore Hall. I didn't know.
Auditorium.
Auditorium. And I had no conception that occasionally, maybe once in a blue moon, some play happens, some cultural activity. I have no idea. I had not seen even. I didn't know. So one day I was going through that Wazirbagh side. I don't know for what. One of my friends was with me. So I saw this Tagore Hall, and there was a hoarding which said that there was some variety program going inside. And the entry was free. The gates were open. So I told my friend, yeah, let's go and let's see what it is. So we went inside and sat. I still remember, I don't know who those people were. So when I entered, the first thing happened was a short drama, skit, 20 minutes, 25 minutes, comedy, loud, humorous type. And then an action song, something, boat song, this, that. But Jugalji, that changed my perception about everything. For the
Ignited.
first time in my life, I saw that those colors, the sets, the lights, the applause of the audience, you know, and it hit me very hard. So after I left the auditorium, still I didn't know what to do. So I again gradually it faded somewhere in the background.
Okay.
So one day, maybe just after 4 or 5 months, I was walking through Badiyar Bala, and just there was the famous iconic Prem Sangeet Niketan in Badiyar Bala, very old one, run by Master Jagannath Shukuri.
All right. Great man.
That I knew, that I had seen many times because girls would come and leave, and and we could hear while walking on the road, we could hear the sounds of harmonium and singing and music. I knew that some kind of music happens there, and the name was also very clear, Prem Sangeet Niketan. But for the first time, I just glanced to the right side of the road, and it came to my notice. I saw a hoarding, Rangmanch Dramatic Club. Rangmanch Dramatic Club. So it hit me. I said, yeah, this is some drama, something. So I didn't know what to do. So on that was the 2-story or 3-story building. This one was on the top floor, and in the ground floor were shops. So there was a sabzi vendor just adjacent to the stairs. So I went to that sabzi wala. I was a young boy. I was just 16, 17. बहुत शर्मा शर्मा के डर डर के I said, ये क्या शब्द? He just looked at me. He said, क्या था ना जिम क्या था ड्रामा वामा कराए क्या वहाँ पवाइन शिवा शीर शाम बस कुछ करा गया वहाँ पे क्या था ड्रामा वामा ये शब्द? I said, okay. So I thought, here is my chance, perhaps. So I climbed the stairs, very nervous. I still remember. And I peeped into the door. It was a big room, big hall, empty. Half of it was carpeted. And on the extreme side was only one gentleman, which I later came to know was Makhdal Saraf. He was, yeah, he was sitting just all alone. And maybe there was one more boy, young boy. He was sitting far away from him. And there was a trunk which he had made into a table, a box, metallic box before him, like a munshi. So he just looked at me. I went very hesitantly. He said, yes. So I said, I'm so and so. Sir, I also want to do drama or something. He just looked at me. Sit down. Like a teacher, I sat down. What's your name? कहाँ रहते हो? क्या करते हो? वगैरह वगैरह. I said, this school, I am from Ali Gadal, this, that. Moil sketch now. ये सब बोल दिया. So he, okay, he opened that box and took out a form. That's form barangod. बेशक ₹5 फीस थोड़ी बिकी, ₹5 फीस. So, obviously, I didn't have ₹5. So I said, अच्छा हमारा फॉर्म ₹5 कैश में पगाएंगे. So I filled the form. So that is how it started. So luckily, then when I started coming to the club second, then it became a ritual, it became a religious duty. I was so excited to see that. Then I saw they were doing some rehearsal. I saw artists coming, other people coming. So there was Bansilal Muttu, who later on, all of them are very well-known actors, Maghalal Sadhu. There was one dwarf fellow, Tej Hodidar. He was also very prominent when television etc. came. Jawaharlal Vanchu. So these, I gradually picked up their names and all. But then I saw a lot of youngsters. Behari Kak was there, many others. Ashok Jailkhani. But 4 or 5 days, I noticed that these youngsters, I just talked to them. I came to know that they have been there for the last 3 years, 2 years, 4 years, but none of them has got any opening, no role in a play so far. So what these elderly people used to do, what's a intul ban ite kar bon chele. So somebody would go and pick up the utensils and cups. The tap was down on the road. He had to get down the 2 stories and walk and then take this bucket, palm in Kharwar. So they were doing only errands for them for the last 2, 3 years.
2, 3 years. My goodness.
Yeah.
Guru
So
Dakshina. Guru Dakshina.
I was new one. So probably once or twice they told me also to do this. So I also did this, but somehow I don't know why. This Makhlal Saraf was already, apart from doing theatre, he was already a very established, well-known radio artist. He was a terrific radio artist, no doubt about it. And he had been working on radio since, I don't know, last 5, 10 years. So he had association with the radio producers like Atar Krishna Reber, the great writer scholar, Ali Muhammad Lone. Occasionally, they used to come to his place, and we used to get to see them there and all. For them, they were all big names. We had only heard their names, never seen them. So, but as luck would have it, just in the first day, just after 15, 20 days, they took a play called Grand Rehearsal. That was my first play. That was written by Pushkar Van and Somnath Sadhu jointly. It had already been produced over radio. But structure-wise, it was a fit play for drama, theatre, to stage, structurally.
They were the brilliant people. Pushkarnath Ban, and they were brilliant people. I mean, very brilliant.
Brilliant. He has a great genius in his own way. Nobody has been able to match him till date still. See, our problem, Jugalji, incidentally, I'll tell you, we have had great people still maybe, but Kashmir had a problem that we were living in an island. See, then as long as you island, there's no communication, there's no interaction, there's no publicity, nothing. I'll come to that later.
My part will come. First of all, I would like to. It's very beautiful, very hilarious, very interesting anecdote, and your communication is so wonderful.
Thank you.
I would come to theatre movement later, but before that, I wanted to go to your broadcasting period. But before I start broadcasting, in case you have more anecdotes of your own personal experiences, then we'll go on to broadcasting and then back to the theatre movement.
Yeah. So I'll just briefly say, so Grand Rehearsal, I did this, so I immediately got a role in that. And then just 2 months after, they did another play. What I'm trying to emphasize in my first year, I got to do 2 plays with Rangmanch Dramatic Club. The second was Talash, very important play written by Atar Krishna Reber. But somehow, whatever my inner urge, or I couldn't connect with these kinds of subjects and all. So by the time I passed by 11th and I went to SP College, and there a dramatic club was formed. I became the joint secretary of the club. Anyway, so I joined. I met 2 or 3 my Hamumar people, and we 2 or 3 Ashok Jailkhani, Tej Jailkhani, Mr. Zahid. So we thought, let us we took this plunge. I was just 17. We just took this plunge to form our own theatre group. So we formed our own theatre group. So Vasant Theatre, right in
Vasant.
70.
Vasant's a beautiful
Vasant,
name.
yeah.
Spring.
And
Spring. No?
from that on, with God's grace, 72 till the club was functional till, I mean, till the time militancy, 89 late.
Continued your place.
It continued. We did about 15, 18 plays, and all of them, some very good, some good, but none was bad. That I can say with
Yeah, I've heard. I have heard
some
it
were
was a
exceptional because most of them got awards. Not only that, I tell you, Jugalji, I'm surprised. You see, it's not a film medium; it is theater. Visual film has a different impact. Theater has a different. I tell you now, today I'm speaking to you from Mumbai. I just happened to meet very recently Mr. Ravi Kumar's younger brother, Krishan Kumar.
Krishan
He
Kamal.
also is in Bombay. He's working somewhere. So he met me. I don't know. I hadn't even seen him earlier. Also, Ravi I knew, but his younger brother I had not seen. So he met me at a social gathering in Mumbai, and he came to me and he said, "Ashokji, we met that he's Kumu." He said, "I'm younger brother of Ravi," and he said, "Ashokji, when you did Eva Minderjeet, I was in class ninth." I said, "Okay." And will you believe it? He must have seen play only once. It's not film you go on seeing it on television and here and there. Keep it. No repeat value. He narrated a full paragraph of dialogues of that play. See the impact.
Why?
That I was in ninth, class ninth then. So I was so dazed and flabbergasted. Anyway,
So
so you wanted to talk about something else now?
yeah, I mean, we'll talk about this. Is actually it's a wonderful journey, and certainly we will be talking about this movement. This was one of the. I think this was the pinnacle. This was the high tide point in this entire periphery. 70s and later on 80s, it
Yeah,
extended up.
yeah, yeah. True, true,
But
true.
you were all were there. We'll talk about 20 years back, 30 years back, and something if you want to talk more about theater in totality. But we will certainly talk about this movement. This is a beautiful movement. Nobody talks about it, and people have forgotten. Uh, you were a very, very competent broadcaster. I mean, I have heard the stories about you were sent to the most challenging places, the challenging centers, and you have some wonderful anecdotes of going to Pakistan and doing some prime minister, covering a prime minister, and then going to Chennai and other places. I heard about these things. I mean, there was some indispensability with the personality like you. Probably this was because of Saraswati. I think all the people who are really genuinely trained in theater,
Mm.
be it Tom Alter, be it Nasuruddin Shah, be it Ashok Jailkhani, they all have something, some devotional aspect, something special in them. If they were sincere and honest during the theater. So I really want to know about, because certainly we are going to talk only about theater now. Your predominant role in broadcasting will not be highlighted. We'll have another program about that. But please elucidate the public about wonderful anecdotes of your broadcasting times,
You
Birullas.
see, Jugalji, I have spent 40 years in broadcasting. 40 years. I was 18 when I joined.
Right.
I was called throughout the network, not only in Kashmir. Throughout the network, I was called baby of the television. When I went for
Maybe.
training, baby of television. I was just 18. And you can imagine, Jugalji, I even retrospect when I think, I am myself amazed. At the age of 21, I was a drama producer.
My goodness.
And can you imagine dealing with very aged and senior actors? Leave them
Senior people.
aside. Intellectuals, writers like Ali Kamal Lone, Akhtar Mohideen, Kamil, telling them how to write, suggesting things to them. Can you imagine? Without trying to hurt their egos. At the age of 21, I was handling them.
21. My
All
goodness.
Sahitya Academy Award winners, Padma Shris, such great people in their own right. Anyway, before I come to, I have a very interesting anecdote about this. You see, it is only theater that took me to television. It was a kind of a continuation for me because what happened, we had a play going on, I don't remember which play, in Tagore Hall. You see, Srinagar Doordarshan, our listeners should know, came on priority on the map of television in the country just after Delhi. Then Bombay and Srinagar were launched together. Leaving aside big metros, Hyderabad, Chennai, Bangalore, Kerala, they came much later. Srinagar was given preference because of the hostile
Border.
propaganda that was coming across, and they had their strong signals. Programs of across the border were seen in Srinagar city. Though television sets were not common, but people used to go to Hajj and get those small TV sets from there,
All
and you could watch some programs. So as it was a policy decision to get a television center in Srinagar on priority. So they did it. But we were young students, busy with studies. I was still in graduation, studying, and I was doing plays. But before that graduation, 1 or 2 years, some I had created a good impression amongst the viewers and some intellectuals and all. So my name got associated with theater as a serious worker and all that. So what happened? This is interesting in itself. I was doing a play. The show is at 6 o'clock. I am doing a character which has to put in a who is aged and who has a huge beard.
Okay.
So those days very orthodox kind of makeup, sprayed gum and beard, and it took about 2 years for that makeup man to get a full beard onto me. So the show was at around 6 o'clock. So 3 o'clock I started, and he started making that beard and all that on me. And now I'm ready. Around 4:30 or 5, suddenly somebody comes in the green room and says, Ashokji, somebody is looking for you.
Hmm.
So I came out. So I saw driver of Radio Kashmir.
Okay.
And he came, he says, I'm such and such from Radio Kashmir. I said, yes. He says, the director Saab wants to see you just now, right now.
Hmm.
I said, how can I do that, यार? मैंने दाढ़ी लगाई हुई, मेरा ड्रामा है शाम को. कहते हैं नहीं साहब, उन्होंने कहा हमको पता लगा, हम दिन भर आपको ढूंढ रहे थे, बाद में हमको पता लगा आप टाइगर हॉल में हैं. So director told him, जैसे भी you get him. So director knew me because whenever we had plays in Tiger Hall, so writers, broadcasters, they used to come and watch.
Intellectuals, all people.
So he knew me by name, and so the driver told me, sir, ये मेरी ड्यूटी लगी है, मैं आपको यहाँ महजूर नगर बड़ से ले जाऊंगा, अल्लाह पाक की कसम 10 मिनट में ले जाऊंगा, 10 मिनट वापस लाऊंगा. तो डायरेक्टर साहब ने आप चलो ऐसे, मैंने कहा दाढ़ी ऐसे चलो कोई बात नहीं. So with full makeup, he made me sit in his car and director's car, and he took me. But I had my heart was pounding for the show. It had to start at 6 o'clock. I was least bothered who is calling me, why he is calling me, nothing. All was focused there, I should be back. So when I entered there, he also saw me with beard and all. I said, sorry, sir, I have come. Oh, good. So he knew me. But besides him, I saw a gentleman whom I didn't know, which I later on came to know. He was a very senior officer from broadcasting, officer on special duty. So there was that planning that center has to start. So he had come on to kind of talent scouting because they needed local people who knew the language, who knew the culture. So they couldn't get people from Delhi to start a Srinagar Durdarshan.
Yeah.
So he had come in advance to see the mahol there and whatever. So that director thought that as a prized one, I should present me to him as a one of our best in Kashmir and something like that. So he looked at me. I wished him. He said, "क्या है? ये क्या है?" मैंने कहा सर play. कौन सा play? ये play. क्या है? Play क्या है? So 2 lines I told him. Okay, thank you. Go. So मैंने कहा जान बची. I sat on the bed and play. And just after a month, I got an interview call on its own. So that's what I said. Theatre took me to television. So when I went there, I still remember I was JUGAL 18. This is very important. In the corridor, I met Mr. Pran Kishore when I was going for an interview. Mr.
Right.
Pran Kishore has been a fatherly figure because his son and me were in Bisco school right from second. So I used to go to his house and like that, and I used to call him Papaji. We were in awe of him. We were scared, I took him as my father, like my father.
Person, yeah.
So he just saw me. He said, "What are you doing here?" जैसे एक बाप पूछता है ना, मैं कहा वो जी इंटरव्यू कौन सा इंटरव्यू? I said that they have called me. तुम्हारा दिमाग खराब है? घर में पूछा है तुमने? तुम तो पढ़ रहे हो, पढ़ाई का क्या? अच्छा तुम क्या कर रहे हो? क्या करना है नौकरी में? तुमने मैंने हाथ छोड़े. आई गुड सर आप बुलाए जाऊंगा, फिर देखते हैं सिलेक्ट होता हूँ, जाता हूँ कि नहीं, वो बाद में देखते हैं. अच्छा घर में बोला है ना, मैंने कहा जी आप बोला है. So I went inside, and then they knew the interview was just a formality, and this is how I got in television. Now,
It
because
was
of my
during the time when Advaniji was the IB minister. No,
no, I think not Advani ji.
it was not Janta
Advani,
period. It was Congress government probably.
Advani ji was in sometime in 70,
77.
77. That was after. This I'm talking about 72.
72.
May probably Mr. Bhagat was, I thought HKL Bhagat or something. It was
HKL
Congress
Bhagat.
government, maybe HKL Bhagat. So that is how I got into television. Now, again, because of my background in theatre, by the time I went to Delhi, and we were lucky. This is also another important point because we were the earliest batch to get selected and get trained in television. Now, in India at that time, there wasn't enough faculty. There was no material available for training. So, Indian government had a UNDP program, the United Nations. So we were lucky. First 1 or 2 batches we got trained from BBC experts, Australian experts, the best in the world.
Best.
So they came in the exchange program and they were in India. They conducted those initial till the time Indian people also started. Faculty got built up gradually. Then they shifted to Pune. Initial trainings were held in Delhi. Then they made the TV thing in Film Institute Pune. Initial batches were held in Delhi, and it was done under UNDP program with all United Nations experts. We had our head of production was from BBC, head of films was from Australian Broadcasting, things like that.
My God.
The best teachers. Anyway, so when I came back again because of but theatre continued. By that time, 1974, 73 Srinagar started. I was in Doordarshan. 74 Kashmir Theatre Federation, which is a epoch moment. 30 entire valley, including folk theatre groups, joined together, made a federation. Mr. Pranchor was the president. He guided us, he helped us, and it became a formidable force. Jugalji for 3 years, 74 till it lasted 74, 75, 76. It was just, I don't know whether that thing can ever be repeated. For the first time, you would see banners in Lal Chowk, Regal Chowk, publicity, ticket selling. Earlier for drama, we used to beg people, yeah, please, aake show dekh lo. तो घर के ही 10-20 लोग होते थे यार 11-12-10 होते थे. Now there were occasions during these 3 years, I don't have time to go in details now, where tickets were sold in black.
My goodness.
So much so, the secretary of the Cultural Academy at that time was Muhammad Yusuf Kane.
Things up.
When this academy was also doing their festivals once a year. So we were also doing our festival, Kashmir Theatre Festival, once a year. Parallel. So once Muhammad Yusuf Kane came to, such a pass, he seriously told us that I'll send a proposal to the government. You're doing such wonderful work, we'll transfer our all grants and funds to you. Why should we do this festival? So it had come to that level.
My God.
So anyway, so plays continued. By the time Evaminderjit happened, किसी एक फूल का नाम लो है, बहुत पंछी ऐसे आते, तो वो नाम थोड़ा थोड़ा बढ़ने लगा, अवार्ड बहुत आ गए. तो इसलिए right from start, besides other programs, kabhi sports, kabhi current affairs, but drama became my main forte. So I was for 10 years till the time I was producer, from 75 to 84, non-stop drama. So experience का क्या है अभी देखता हूँ, अब याद भी नहीं है नाम. जुगल जी for television, teleplays, dramas, serials, कुल मिला के, it should be around 300, not less than 300.
My God. Continuous work.
Yeah, continuous. And so then I would have, by some of them became very popular hits, which are people still remember, Shabrang, Dastar, Ye Zahar Kuch Chahiye, many of them offhand. So what happened was then UPSC advertised posts for assistant station director. How I got into administration. So I realized our service system was such that there was stagnation for producers. There was no promotion possible. Once you're a producer, you are a producer lifelong. You retire. Like it happened to great people like Pran Kishore, Pushkar Bal. Eventually, much later, कोई स्पेशल पोस्ट वोस्ट करके उनको चीफ प्रोड्यूसर बनाया, बट एसेंशियली प्रोड्यूसर्स, दे रिटायर्ड एज प्रोड्यूसर्स।
Producer.
जो उनके नीचे काम करते थे वो डायरेक्टर जनरल पता नहीं क्या क्या बन के रिटायर हो। सो आई रियलाइज दिस, सो आई सेड ओके, बट इट वाज वेरी टफ कॉल। You see, it's an all India selection of UPSC.
All
The
India.
posts were
UPSC.
11, just 11 posts, and so thousands applied. In within our Srinagar division, or everyone applied almost. So luckily, I got selected in that. They were 11 का लिस्ट था, और उसमें डिस्टिंक्शन उसमें ये हुआ कि 11 में से सारे हिंदुस्तान में 2 कश्मीरी पंडित्स वर सिलेक्टेड, अशोक जेलखानी एंड माय डियर फ्रेंड मिस्टर अशोक ओगरा.
अरे वाह, अशोक ओगरा साहब भी उसी से.
And Ashok Jailkhani were in the same list of 11 selected. So that is how I got into administration. Now this.
And you,
now
and how are the days? You did some. It is said. I mean, we'll go fast forward. You had a very different atmosphere when you went to Chennai. Probably Chennai was a station where you
yeah,
were
yeah.
not.
Everywhere it was different. See, now coming to, I'll cut short and I'll just run through. In Srinagar, when I joined as ASD in '85, just after 3 years or 4 years, '89, this militancy thing started. Okay. So as an administrator, it became a challenge. We were two. Mr. Rasakol had recently been transferred from Srinagar radio to television.
Radio
so he was new. He didn't have much idea of television. So he was more dependent upon me. I was his assistant. I was assistant student director, and he was director. Just after 3-4 years, things changed topsy-turvy. So you were talking about challenges. So first challenge was that, because to run the station, to keep the transmission going, people, it was difficult for them to cop the officers. Then there was threat. News readers stopped reading news. Announcers were hesitant to come on screen. There were threats to us and that and this and that. Lasakol and myself, many a time, had to sleep in the office, because to be available next day morning, because roads would be deserted, no transport would be possible. So it was not possible to come. I was at that time living in Rawalpura, Barzula, to come down. He was living in Bemina. So many times we spent nights in the office and saw the transmission keeps on going, whatever the situation. So that was the first challenge. So there are some very
Lasakol died there only, or later on?
So see, it is again a kind of providence, you can say. So 5th of January 1990, I requested Mr. Lasakol. I said, we were suffocated. December month, he and me had spent so many nights in the office. And when I had to go back to home, I had to walk from a distance of 10 kilometers to go back home after 2 days or 3 days, just to change clothes or wash down or something like that. So we were all mentally suffocated. So I requested him. I said, sir, please give me 5 days leave, just for a change. It has become very suffocating. He said, I'm also suffocating. Ashok, okay, you go, but make sure that you come after 1 week. I'm alone here. When you come, both of us cannot leave the station. Then I'll also go. I said, okay. So this was the understanding. And I, along with my family, my wife and I, by that time, my second daughter was not born, one daughter. So we went to Bombay. And incidentally, what happened was Satish KOUL, our actor who died very recently, he was a very close friend of mine. And I knew his father, Mola Lama, also. His uncle, Omkar Rama, was dearest to me. Omkar Rama's son, Alok, was very close to me. So it was a very family kind of a relation. So I went there, and my leave was getting over. So in Bombay, I was hearing, blast ye ho gaya, wo ho gaya. Situation was getting bad and bad. And I was still there, and I got to know from my friends in Srinagar through a phone that they have published a hit list formally. And Rasakol's name is also there, and your name is also there. So please don't come here. So this was the feedback I got. So anyway, I'm in Providence. Now I was supposed to join, because I promised him that I'll be back within a week or 10 days time. But Omkar Rama's son got married. He had a marriage ceremony going. So I said, I'm sorry, I can't. I have to go. So Mohla Lama said, how can you let you go? I said, Lasakol said, I'll talk to him. Lasakol, must have worked under him sometime. So Mohla Lama का अपना एक स्टाइल था, दादा स्टाइल. वो फोन किया, हे लसा, ऐसे बोल, लसा, Ashoka, now that poor fellow could not say anything to you. I'm only things.
He was very
And I,
gentleman. Nasapur was
gentlemen,
very good.
I still remember Jugalji, 13th of Feb, Mola Lama invited us for dinner. उन्होंने कहा, आज का खाना मेरे यहाँ खाना. So me and my wife and my daughter, we went to Juhu Beach. We were loitering around, no idea of what has happened. And when I came around 7:30 to 8, Warsaw, Mr. Mola Lama had a beautiful, very beautiful flat just on the sea, facing sea. So just I saw the door was open, and he saw me. There was no necessity for ringing the bell. The door was open, and TV was at a very high pitch. And he came from the other room like this, Ashoka Lasamur, Mola Lama. I got stunned. I said, what happened? Then I realized he had been shot and this and that and that. Then, anyway, that is a most tragic thing. So then my department put a lot of pressure on me. You go to Srinagar because it was headless. There was nobody. But everybody was advising me not to go. You may have to leave. You leave the job. Don't bother. You can't go. So anyway, I stayed in Bombay for 3-4 months. I tried to get my transfer to some other place, cut it short, and finally they posted me to Lucknow. So Lucknow, I spent only 1.5 years.
Culture city.
Around 2 years.
The city of
As,
culture, eminence, eloquence.
yeah, as
The city
deputy
of
director.
culture.
Yeah. That when we talk of broadcasting, it has episodes we'll talk in detail. I'm just giving you a brief journey of broadcasting. I'm not coming to there. So Mr. Vilayat Jafri, again a very well-known theatre person, a master of light and sound. Master of light and sound. He was with Song and Lamajan earlier. He was my director and I was his deputy. I was deputy director. So I passed on 2 years. Then finally, in the meantime, Srinagar got very bad, on the verge of almost getting locked. So it was said that we have to make some alternate arrangements. And our friends across the border said, Kashmir mein radio bhi band ho gaya, television bhi band ho gaya. They propagated it from across the border, and it was a challenge. So they said that Jammu we must start. So probably they thought that he's a local, he may be of some use. So they posted me to Jammu. Then how I started Jammu Kendra, and with no resources, no funds, nothing, with the migrant staff only. So that is another story. We'll talk in detail challenges of Jammu. Then from Jammu, I was shifted to Jalandhar, which is one of the best centers. There also, I had some great things, particularly many things. One of them, which you mentioned, was that Lahore bus yatra of Mr. Vajpayee, which I had to cover, which was the greatest challenge I have done so many outside broadcasts. I have done sports, I have done Commonwealth Games, nothing more difficult than that, which we did and we accomplished. And world over all broadcasters carried our signal because only DD had access to it. It was a live coverage. 23, 24, 25 cameras and route from Amritsar airport to Wagah border about 25, 23, uninterrupted, some cameras in the chopper, some on the ground, because we were conscious whole world is focused on this event. And then there's a small incident. I don't know whether to narrate it now or keep it for later.
No, you can just narrate.
Okay. So this is a little interesting.
Yeah.
Anyone who has a little idea of broadcasting will understand, but everybody will understand. So when whenever, because I have covered many Prime Minister coverages, on coverages dealing with SPG is a nightmare. Anytime it's a nightmare. And though SPG had come earlier, we had explained to them our details, camera position, our men, who will be where, and everything. But finally, when the plane landed and Mr. Vajpayee and his entire entourage came down, descended from the plane, they suddenly objected to this cable, yahan hatao, ye cable yahan nahi ho sakta, wo nahi ho sakta. And because everything was lined up, the signal was international, our hearts sank, we pleaded somehow. Then what happened is at Wagah border, when we were, preparing for the bus to come there, we suddenly realized that our cameras are like this, and this is the Vaga gate. So when the bus enters the gate, our personnel, our staff, our equipment, our camera is only on this side of the gate. So when Mr. Vajpayee comes here and Mr. Nawaz Sharif comes that side, they shake hands. That classic moment, that classic 10-second or 5-second moment, catching the expression of Mr. Vajpayee when he shakes hands, we will miss it at that time. Later on, we can get it because there are handheld cameras, then we can join those. But that precise moment, live moment, we will miss because our cameras are only able to take us back. So this dawned on us, but there was no solution. What to do? They won't allow us to go across or something like that. So
Yeah.
suddenly we realized that there is a way out. So the Pakistan side cameras were that side. So because then there was a small wall, small boundary, and then I somehow made a, ishara to somebody from the across. He was a technician or somebody. So I whispered, and I was watching whether anybody is looking at me. I said, "Yaar, तुम्हारा इंचार्ज कौन है? Technical incharge." So he came, somebody came. So मैंने उसको प्रॉब्लम समझाई. मैंने कहा भाई ये प्रॉब्लम सिर्फ हमारी नहीं आपकी भी है. आपका कैमरा है, आप वाजपेयी, आप नवाज शरीफ साहब का वो मोमेंट नहीं ले सकते. आपका कैमरा भी उनके बैक पर है. He understood. So I said, see, SPG, if you talk to security, SPG, they will never allow some kind of suspicious wire going this side or that wire coming this side. So I said, यार किसी को आप कर सकते हो चुपके से पतली सी अपना कैमरा का आउटपुट मुझे दे दो, मैं अपने आउटपुट तुमको देता हूँ, उधर लगा दो. जैसे ही वो मोमेंट आएगा, you cut my camera, I'll cut your camera. And we did it. Nobody came to know. And it was a great moment. So we did it. And we managed.
Community understanding. Yeah.
Yes, yes. So that was about that. And then Jalandhar, I had 6 years I was in Jalandhar. Like in Jammu, I was in 6 years. So Jalandhar became a model station. I did many first year. That will come on later. In the sense that that became the first station in the whole Doordarshan network, which was declared a model station. Why? Because I earned so much of revenue, the total policy changes, that my expenditure revenue was staying. 8 crore हमको बजट मिलता था, 8 crore में हमको कमा के देता. So it became talk of the whole network. Either every Kendra was running at losses, depending on government money, funds, पैसा दो जी पैसा दो. ये पहला स्टेशन बना, 8 crore मेरा खर्चा, 8 crore, कभी-कभी 8 crore से थोड़ा ज़्यादा भी मैं उनको कमा के देता था.
Income.
So that was my big achievement in Jalandhar. So nitty-gritties we'll talk later. Then what happened was that 6 years so थोड़ा नाम हो गया Jalandhar station का और ये अच्छा काम हो रहा है. Our CEO, our board members, our director general, Dr. Ashok Jailkhani was our director general then, who later became the chief election commissioner of India. Dr. Ashok Jailkhani. He was our director general then. So he held me in high esteem because he had seen me my work in Jalandhar. I didn't know. I was very happy in Jalandhar, settled, and people loved me and all that. So suddenly, I get a phone call from my DG. यार तुम कल दिल्ली आकर अशोक दिल्ली आकर मुझसे कल मिलो. So I went. I said yes. मैंने सोचा कुछ जलंधर का ही कुछ काम होगा. He must be asking me to do something important or something to discuss. He said, Ashok, I want you to go to Chennai. My heart sank. I said, sir, Chennai. मैंने क्या आप मुझे सजा दे रहे हैं? अच्छा काम का सजा? नहीं बेटा ऐसा नहीं. Listen to me. Then he told me that Chennai was our highest revenue earning station. The revenue was used to be around 45 crores a year. 45 crores.
My God.
And now it has come to 4 crores. The station is dead. Nothing is happening there. We tried many directors, local, Tamil, nothing. वहाँ दादागिरी हो गई, गुंडागर्दी है, कुछ नहीं चल रहा है. So it has become a big problem for us, the board, the CEO. So we were trying to pinpoint who are the people available with us, who will be the best choice. So everybody has zeroed on. I said, sir, please, for God's sake, I'm a North Indian. I don't know the language. I can't understand a word of Tamil. And I have heard that they also don't like North Indian people. So it'd be a problem, and probably I can't function because I don't know anything about Tamil. What can I do there? अरे नहीं अशोक तुम सब कर लोगे मुझे मालूम है ये है वो है फलाना है. So I didn't know what to say. I again said, because this location is always a problem, though in my career I welcomed it every time. So eventually there is an episode of Mr. Gujral also in between linked to it. He used to come to me, that I'll talk on later on, my experience with Mr. Gujral. So
Okay.
anyway, this year, that year, finally I had to go. So I was in Chennai for 1.5 years only. And believe me, Jugalji, Chennai, even now, there is a formidable network of private television. I think the
Yeah.
most formidable one in India, because we are only tuned to Z and Star and this Colors and so on. It is Sun TV network.
Sun is a
It
very
is
popular.
no huge in terms of revenue, huge in terms of shows, huge in terms of expenditure. It is next to impossible for anybody to challenge the network. It is so deeply entrenched. So I went there, and you know, Doordarshan everywhere, even in Punjab or Jammu or Kashmir, was based basically, their strong point was terrestrial transmission. You know, others were all satellite transmission. But in Tamil Nadu, the satellite penetration was almost 100%. So
Correct.
Doordarshan का antenna उधर नहीं चलने वाला था. Nobody was bothered about it. There was hardly any viewing. So again, very interesting policy things and all. To cut it again short, in just 2 years' time, less than 2 years' time, I could get the revenue from 4 crores to 8.5 crores.
My God.
And I have a book. One of my friends has written a book, a biography kind of a thing. There are letters in that which my CEO and DG has written about that. That is unthinkable and unimaginable what you have done. Similarly about Jalandhar, all those things are there. From K.S. Sharma, from when I did Commonwealth Games, from Mr. Lali, from Dr. S.Y. Qureshi. Those are all on record. And my contribution in Commonwealth Games. So then, fortunately or unfortunately, when I was there, Chennai, I got promoted as additional director general. So there is no post of additional director general in the Kendra. You have to come to the headquarters.
Naturally.
So they immediately asked me to come. I said no, because my younger daughter was studying. It was mid-session somewhere, sometime in I don't know, September, October. So I requested them. I said I can't come now. My daughter, she won't get admission in Delhi mid-session. What do I do? So, but what can we do? You are promoted with this. Then I said, well, please help me. I can't do. This is very crucial moment for me. My wife was against me. She said, how can we go this that? So घर में झगड़ा शुरू हो गया. So finally, they were nice enough. They transferred the post of one additional director general to South
Oh
and
my
gave
God.
me the charge of director of Doordarshan Chennai plus additional director general of South Zone, which meant
Additional.
Kerala, Bangalore, Andaman Nicobar Islands, Hyderabad. So these all Kenyans I had to supervise and also directed this thing. And in that, during that period, that tsunami of Chennai happened. That is also a very interesting episode. And I was in Port Blair that day.
You were in Port Blair. Why?
Yeah, that's very day when that tsunami happened.
That was very
And I
deadly.
don't know, people might have seen or not seen. You must have seen. Many people know the first shots of tsunami that came on world over television was the Ambassador white car floating on the sea of Marine Drive. With the shots of Port Blair airport cracked, runway cracked, this that happened because I was that time there. All crashes and everything. I told my dad, go and get a camera. Port Blair was a very small station. The roads were cracked. There was no transport. Somehow somebody went on a bike, got a camera from the office, and
It was
started
impossible.
shooting passengers stranded at airport and all that. And इसमें जोक ये है, मैं खड़ा हूँ क्योंकि हजारों पैसेंजर्स बंगाल से आए थे, वो आते हैं पोर्ट ब्लेयर, 25 March, it was Christmas time.
Because yeah,
It
they
is
come.
flooded. So what happened is, so he was showing that crack building and people are परेशान कैसे जाएंगे, run नहीं crack. And in between मेरा भी shot आया होगा, मैं खड़ा था. I was also planning to, we were also scheduled to travel to Chennai back. But then we couldn't go, flights got cancelled. So mobile आ गए थे. I'm still there. I'm happy I got the coverage and coverage. So we had a satellite link. So I got it fed onto the network, so it came all over immediately. Within 1 hour's time, we were on air. with those live shots.
Entire room.
So suddenly my mobile rings. Some friend is calling from Bangalore. अरे यार तू वहाँ क्या कर रहा है? Somebody is calling from Jammu. My relate. I couldn't place. इतना confusion कि इनको कैसे पता है यार पोर्ट ब्लेयर में ये क्या हो रहा है? मेरे यहाँ से भी suddenly फोन आ रहे हैं. My DJ rang me up. अरे what are you safe? This is that. फिर then I realized, I said, okay, they must have taken shots of people and passing shot में कहीं मैं भी नजर आ गया. So people are glued to TV, and so I started getting calls. So all in all, we'll talk about this broadcasting aspect sometime in detail. All in all,
it's a lot of
my broadcasting journey has been full of challenges, a lot of colorful experiences. It has never been a Clarky Babu type dull. Though I was an administrator, Fiverr भी करना पड़ता था, but साथ उसके because it was a good combination of a programmer and an administrator. Normally क्या होता था कि people used to come from radio or direct from UPSC and join as director or with no experience of So when I used to take a meeting about a production, no cameraman, no editor, no producer could fool me. Saab ye shot aisa, saab ye camera aisa, nobody could fool me. So they would come doubly prepared to the meeting, So that was an additional advantage. Plus, you gradually learn the nuances of administration.
Those are the great, wonderful. I mean, we will have a one program on this probably on.
Broadcasting that'll be very interesting. There are certain incidents which people don't know and which they must know. They're very
must know, and certainly these are for the in a way this is like a book to read. It's for the broadcasters as well as for the common man, because nowadays we know all these things.
True.
So let's come back to Ashok ji. Coming back to our movement days, and before movement days, I want you to go to the retrospect, because I think the postmodern time, the national scenario, as you suggested, I mean, no part of the India was untouched with the plays without Badal Sarkar or for the Vijay Tendulkar or Girish Karnad. तो जम्मू में भी होता था. I don't know कश्मीर में होता था कि Surinder Verma, you have done already one wonderful play. Yes, सूर्य की अंतिम किरण से and then पंछी ऐसे आते हैं, and then मोहन राकेश, आषाढ़ का एक दिन, and then Badal Sarkar's Pabla Goda and even Minderjeet, and even the people of Samuel Beckett I have seen in Kashmir, and Game and this the Waiting for Godot, and also the Gorky. I don't know Gorky and Dostoevsky. They are more. I think personally, it's my view as a study of theater, as a literature, I think that we are more closer to the Gorky, to the Chekhov, to the Tolstoy, than to the Tendulkar, than to the other thing. This is my view. But let's talk about, in retrospect, what you, Shivalan and then Sheetal Nath and those great personalities who, as you said, it was our lagoon. I mean, brilliant brains, brilliant people, but nothing over. And how did it all start? Let's go 10, 20 years back. And then
you see, the contemporary somewhere in 60s, in Shivala Mandir complex, that was iconic. Long back, I think in 60s, Prithviraj Kapoor had come to Kashmir and he had laid the foundation stone of that auditorium there. So initially, I have not seen it. I was not probably born also, but I've heard. So initially, it was Sudhar Samiti. So they used to do social dramas, some religious plays and like that. That eventually became Kala Kendra later on.
Okay.
Then Kala Kendra was established within that Shivala complex, and that they had access to that auditorium and all that. So one thing which I have heard and which I want to share with that our viewers is that, see, during which I have heard, I have not seen myself. So some great people, Madhulal Tikku and Suraj Narayan Tikku, his younger brother, he is a painter and a great actor also. And what is fascinating that there was one character about whom I only heard, not seen him. He was named as Mr. Kashinath Bhan probably. He was a drawing teacher.
Okay.
So that they say that he was amazing with set designing and effects. जिसको आजकल हम special effects कहते हैं. So he would create, and he has created for those plays then, like cyclone effect on stage, like a river on stage, like a whirlpool on stage, and in Dharmic dramas, suddenly Shivji would blossom from nowhere, cut from the ground, cut. So he would do that trick kind of scenes. उसको वहां तब कहते थे फट scene, फट.
But
So he is. I've heard from seniors he was very highly talked about, Mr. Kashinath. So he was so talented. You see, Jugalji, what I believe in is this necessity, as we say, is mother of invention. Even
no
in
doubt.
media, television, films, uh, when we were doing theater, we have to work with very limited resources, create an effect, build a set with no money, no nothing. So when there is need and there are no resources, you keep on thinking of alternatives. So I personally believe such effort makes you more creative. Now,
Yes.
personally, everything is available on the press of a button. In this digital age, even in
Instant.
films and television, when you do editing, you just punch a button, mountain is there, a river is there, a superimposition is there, multiple pictures are there, whatever you do. So that time you have to, think and keep on thinking, devise some way how to get to that level. So those were really, if you talk of retrospect, they were great people in their own right. And
Even
the
this,
time,
for that matter,
social,
yes, this,
social,
who wrote this operas,
yeah,
Dinanath
Dinan
Nath,
Nadim, many great
Bombartu
people,
Yambarzal, Bombartu
from
Yambarzal, and
Bomber
Mr. Sai.
Number. You see, that time, actually, in contemporary stage, basically, lot of credit goes to SP College. Some
Okay.
1905, a dramatic wing was set up, and it was undivided India. Great writers who then migrated to POK and other side of the border, where some principals, I forgot their names, they were quite Urdu scholars, well read in English. And this Mr. Pran Kishore has narrated to me because he was a very active member of SP College, dramatic club. He did a lot of plays there. So SP College Dramatic Club has a lot of contribution, promoting this drama culture. Now coming to the other than college, so then when this Kala Kendra branched out, so we had this Mr. Trilok Das, a
Tilokdas. Aram hai
very
haram.
dominating personality, and with him and in Kala Kendra, we had a bunch of good artists who later on made a name for themselves in television, like Lakshmi Narayan KOUL, like Hadana Gurtu, like
Hazrat
Somnath
Gurji.
Sumli, like Krishnan Lungu, like Makhalal Sarab. Makhalal Sarab is also a product of Kala Kendra.
He is a very good
Yes,
actor.
very good actor, no doubt
As a
about it.
writer, as a playwright, and as a director, I have different views about him. But as
No,
an
no, no.
actor,
As an
he's
actor, I also have a different view, but as an actor, he's a good actor.
a
And
class.
not only the point is that he has been his greatest asset has been, and for which he deserves all the kudos, is that he has been sincerely dedicated to theater. Till about
That's true.
3-4 years back, at a good age, ripe age, so to say, he was active in theater. He never stopped, non-stop. Good, bad, very good, bad, or ugly, he kept on doing something. So his passion was, very great. It's still great. So all these basically branched out from Kala Kendra. So then Rangmanch, then we had about 10, 12. You were wanting me to tell you the names and history. There were
Yeah, yeah.
10, 12 theatre groups in Srinagar city, I'm talking. And mostly, this drama movement was restricted to Kashmiri Pandits only. So occasionally you would find some maybe at a level of an actor, two, three non-Kashmiri Pandit actors, but basically and predominantly theaters were run by Kashmiri Pandits. So we had this Rangmanch Club. Then I told you about my Vasant Theatre. Then there was Naurang Dramatic Club. Then there was Sangam Dramatic Club. There was Abhinav Theatre and Kamal
Abhinav was.
Theatre. And so when this cultural academy thing happened, when it came into 60s, so then gradually these drama festivals started happening. And apart from drama festivals, it was an yearly event where the academy would pay you some production cost. They also started giving some kind of yearly financial assistance for producing plays. It was a meager amount, maybe 2,000, 3,000, 4,000, but that kind of gave an incentive, and so theaters started mushrooming up. And then
Okay.
when this festival and competition came, then it gave a sense of competition. And now, as I told you earlier, I stopped that and we graduated to broadcasting. When I came to theater, regular theater, after coming out of Rangmanch in 70. So my problem was that the kind of themes, the scripts that were predominant, there exceptions are always there. Predominant was social plays, Dahej ka mamla, Hush Nush Ladai,
Mhm.
Zamindar, Jagirdar, this kind of stuff, routine, mundane stuff. So this, as a growing youth, this never clicked with me. So I was looking for something which will connect, have a deep emotional connect, which will challenge me, which will leave a lasting impact. So that
Expression.
basically drove me to Hindi plays. So that it was per chance in 73 ending or something, I had come to Delhi. I went to a bookshop, Prabhat Publications, Dariaganj, very famous one. Again, I'm re-emphasizing, I was just 18 years old. And
Oh my goodness, very young.
I just went through that library. I just saw Yomilaji. I had no time to read it, obviously. But I just read the preface and something clicked. I never read the complete play then and there. And then I purchased that book. I came down to Srinagar. I read it. I was bowled over. And only there are incidents, very Kamal incidents related to other plays, but this one I'll tell you. So Kashmir Theatre Federation started in 74. So the first festival, I came with Evamandarji.
Ah,
Now I was I-
was challenging.
Jugalji, this, and it was totally new thing for Kashmiri stage. Not play to thai ta class ka. The way we presented it, designing, the lighting
Designing,
was
structure,
totally different. You
light.
see, I had come from television, so film का visual impact दिमाग में था कहीं subconsciously. So lights, suggest to
बिल्कुल.
sets, movements, grouping, composition. So when it was staged, hell broke loose. I remember Ghulam Rasul Santo is a great painter. He came
Yeah,
and hugged me. He hugged me. A great writer painter. He hugged me.
writer he was also great writer.
He said, Malya, Ashirwad Malya to Shivarya Durvas. Likewise, many others. Now, about Evo Minderjit, I'll tell you a very interesting episode. That then, because it plays clicked, then it was given a repeat performance, participate in Academy Festival again. So I don't know, second or third show, M.K. Rana. M.K. Rana the Great, I had never met him. I had heard only his name. There's an age difference. I had never seen him. He came and saw the play. I had never seen him. And then finally he said, please, can you meet me at coffee house tomorrow morning? It is again, I'm talking about 74. तब मैं
74.
20 साल का था. दूसरे तीसरे शो में देखा था. Now this is a very classic moment. He sat, he ordered coffee. मैं उनके सामने छोटा ही था, उम्र से भी. तो बात हुई and this that. So I saw by the side of his chair was a portly, footage. उसमें काफी सारे कागज थे, वो उसने साइड में रखी. I didn't understand. So he said, very good, Hannah. I was also one time planning to do this play, but I couldn't do it, something. And finally he said, I have come to Kashmir, Srinagar, to my original home after 4, 5, 6 years. The reason was that I had collected many plays, manuscripts, scripts during my training and all that. These were lying in this house. So I thought I will get them out and take them over. So I want you to keep all these. Can you imagine the gesture? I want you to keep all these.
Yeah, but
You can do
he
something.
gave it to the right personality, right personality. I
No,
mean,
but it's
every
great,
writer.
great of him. That is one important memory associated with this play. And the other one is greater one, is that without our knowing, some professor from NSD, National School of Drama, he must have come as a tourist to Kashmir. कहीं उसने देखा होगा ड्रामा नाटक समारोह कुछ. And he thought, चलो कश्मीर में देखें क्या हो रहा है. So he just happened, and it happened to be Yogendraji there that day. He didn't know anybody. We didn't know him. So play happened, everything. He left. And उस जमाने में नेशनल स्कूल ऑफ ड्रामा में हमारे दो दोस्त के रैना और वीरेंद्र राजदान पढ़ रहे थे. They were students. Now they didn't know what is happening.
फोन तो नहीं पास
Are you
पास में.
getting me? कट गया वो. Are you getting me?
Yeah. I'm getting. Yeah, please,
Okay.
please.
The National School of Drama guy watched this play, and he came to the classroom next day or the third day. He said, I went to Kashmir, I went to Srinagar, I saw this, what a play. And he began describing the production aspects to the students. Now, our two Kashmiri guys, Virendra Razan, Vidura, Mahabharat, K.K. Rana,
K.K. Rana.
great stage and TV actor, film actor.
अरे wonderful.
They were really happy. अरे यार कश्मीर की बात हो रही है. तो वो 3 दिन उसने उस पे लेक्चर किया. Can you imagine? 3 days he discussed the final aspects of this production in his class. I didn't know. So sometime happened and these guys, KK and Virender, they came on summer break to Kashmir. And वो हमते हुए हमारे थिएटर में खोला. तो लालमोत वालमोत क्या हाल है यार कैसे? अरे यार सबको गोली मारो. पहले बोला ये Virender जी क्या चीज है? I said what? I said what happened? So then they discussed the whole episode. So this is one. Similarly, particularly पंछी ऐसे आते हैं प्ले.
पंछी ऐसे आते हैं. वो तो
सबके साथ ही ऐसा हुआ. मैं एक इंसिडेंट बता रहा हूँ. पंछी ऐसा आते हैं में एक इम्पोर्टेंट कैरेक्टर मेरा अच्छा गहरा बचपन का दोस्त अशोक पंडित, who is a big name now as an activist, as a filmmaker.
बॉम्बे वाला.
Bombay. So he also, yeah,
he's become a politician.
He's the president of Film and TV Directors Association in Bombay, very prominent name in film. So he also played a role with me. I gave him a role and he did this play. So he was already associated with IPTA, a regular theatre in Bombay. He had come for 2-3 months to Kashmir. I was doing this play. He said, I want to be busy. I want to also do something. I said, come, there's a role for you to do it. And he did brilliantly well. उसमें एक बंडा का एक कैरेक्टर है, बहुत खूबसूरत किया. तो उसके बाद तब मोबाइल ये सब नहीं होते थे. Those letters are still with me. Out of curiosity, उसके बाद बॉम्बे के किसी ग्रुप ने 1-2 महीने में यही प्ले किया. उसके बाद सत्यदेव दुबे ने यही प्ले किया. So his letter is still with me. He said, अशोक, हमारे प्रोडक्शन की ये जूती भी नहीं है दोनों प्रोडक्शन. आप सोचिए फ्लेबरगास्ट क्या हुआ. और एवंदर जी का एक खूबसूरत बात जो मेरी बायोग्राफी उसमें प्राण किशोर ने लिख के दिया है. इन 65-66 बलराज साहनी, प्राण किशोर, प्रभात मुखर्जी, they had gone to Calcutta to do editing of Mahjur film for editing. You know, शायरी कश्मीर महजूर एक फिल्म बनी है. इसके कश्मीरी वर्जन के डायरेक्टर प्राण किशोर थे, उर्दू वर्जन के प्रभात मुखर्जी थे. बलराज साहनी was doing the main character. So there they happened to see the Evamanjit production of Badal Sarkar's group, and Utpal Dutt was doing the main role. बादल सरकार का खुद का ग्रुप ये प्ले उन्होंने देखा 66 में. उनके हाथ का मेरी किताब में दर्ज है, प्राण जी के हाथ में, कि तुम्हारी प्रोडक्शन उनसे 100 गुना बेहतर थी. Can you imagine? It's a record. उन्होंने लिख के दिया है, किताब मेरी किताब में छपा हुआ है.
उत्पल दत्त कैरेक्टर, एक्टर, आई मीन
फिर वो राइटर. अब मैं क्या कह रहा हूँ, जो एक मेरा विजन जो मैं कई जब मेरे सेशन चलते हैं एक्टरों के को भी समझाता हूँ. इसी समटाइम्स वो डायरेक्टर वही होता है जो प्ले को जो राइटर ने लिखा है उसको एक ऐसा कोई डायमेंशन दे जो राइटर ने भी ना सोचा हो. डायरेक्टर शुड टेक द प्ले टू अनदर लेवल, even beyond the what writer has imagined and thought of. That is the control of the director. नहीं तो डायरेक्टर क्या होता है?
Deeper than that.
This is what I try to do. This is what I try to do in all my plays.
You were doing, because after this melodrama went away, this loud theater went away, sophistication came in,
and surprisingly जुगल एक बात और बताऊं कि you know कश्मीर में नॉन स्पीकिंग अंडरस्टैंडिंग हिंदी वाले लोग हैं, मुस्लिम ऑडियंस बहुत है, तो हिंदी ज्यादा समझते नहीं. जितने मैंने हिंदी प्लेस के लोग आते थे, चाहे 300-250 जितने भी आते थे, और सारे प्लेस अच्छे गए तो इनके 3-3, 4-4 शो होते थे, तो कुल मिला के सेफली से 600-700 लोग देखते थे हर प्ले. नॉन स्पीकिंग उसमें बहुत होते थे, दो दे वुड अंडरस्टैंड अ सिंगल लाइन, लेकिन प्ले का प्रेजेंटेशन और उसका विविडिटी इतनी होती थी, दे कुड कनेक्ट टू इट एंड दे वुड एंजॉय इट. You know, similarly, if you remember in Kashmir, हम जब छोटे थे तो इंग्लिश फिल्म किसी हॉल में लगती थी 7 बजे शाम को. तो 3rd क्लास और 1st क्लास में आपको पता है ऑडियंस कौन सी होती थी? कुल्फी बेचने वाले, वो रेडे पे चना बेचने वाले. They used to go for, you know, सेक्स में सेक्स की चीजें होंगी, न्यूडिटी, उनका अट्रैक्शन नहीं होता था. तो obviously they wouldn't understand anything of English, कि बोल्ड होती हैं पिक्चरें.
But there is a catharsis. There's a catharsis.
Believe me, उनको सारी स्टोरी समझ में आती थी. They would tell you broadly the story क्या थी. They would understand it.
That is what art is. That is what art is. What I was telling you, Ashok ji, I was telling you because when we came from the loud theater, the melodrama and everything started changing, unawarely in Kashmir, we had wonderful people like you in the theater movement who were already working in the direction of the Stanislavskian theater. You were preparing actor, you were going interiorizing the character, going deeper into the character, because stage basically is a medium of actors.
Yeah,
Finally, performance comes. It comes through the actors only. But this interiorizing concept of Stanislavski, which came after the naturalistic theater and even absurd theater also, that is natural in Kashmir. Because I don't know, I would like that at least you explain a bit about this, the spacecraft, stagecraft, space
you see,
utilization of space, preparation of
one
actors. Any play, you can start with any play. You are on anybody else's, yeah.
one thing is that, generally speaking, there's no doubt about that. Kashmir has a lot of talent.
Wonderful.
They have a lot of talent because they got an advantage also because Doordarshan came very early. So there was demand, lots of productions happened. So by trial and error, they learned the
You
tricks
can
of the
try.
trade.
Right.
And uh, but what before I forget this point, what people what tend to do, they you generally have actors workshop, you generally have directors workshop. That is not that important. To sustain a movement, we need scripts, we need writers, original writers for stage theater. So what I've been suggesting in every form that you should focus on writers workshop. एक्टर वेक्टर तैयार हो जाएंगे, कोई दिक्कत नहीं.
Mhm.
6 महीने में 6 हफ्ते का कोर्स करा के क्रैश कोर्स, they know the basics. They only to be fine tuned. You see, in Kashmir we have very good standard of prose. We have brilliant, we have had and we still have some good short story writers. Brilliant. There
Poetry also.
quite a number of novels have also been written. Then radio has been in existence since ages,
Very
since
fast, very
47, 48. For people have been writing for radio plays. The
but
medium
there
is
is no
different,
playwright.
but essentially it's a drama, no? So they've been writing dramas, maybe for a different medium, since 47, 48. So the problem was that because theatre was not paying, and in the genre of fiction, short story, novel, and plays is the most difficult one. There's no doubt about it. Out of the three, plays is the most difficult one. Now they had no incentive. You can't sustain on writing something for stage. Radio, they used to get some money also. So that incentive is needed. But basically, you can get hold of these short story writers, 20, 30 of them,
Yeah.
and do a 1 year workshop, give them monthly stipend, whether Cultural Academy does this, because this will be a real service. We'll produce some real dramatic literature. If we are
Actually,
able to write
actually,
10, 20 Kashmiri original plays, that
Ashokji,
is,
I feel that Kashmiri, besides Motilal Kemu, of course, he goes to the Banpathan and traditional theatre, and then he goes into the eras and time spaces and the histories. Accepting him, there is not a single credible playwright. They are great writers, they are great storytellers, but the craft of theatre is yet to be understood.
that is
Even
what
the
I'm
youngest, yeah,
I'm precisely coming to that because Motilal Kimo essentially was devoted to theatre. He did write
yeah,
something for radio also, very few, but he was a
but he was a great,
genuine theatre worker. He, he was breathing theatre every moment. There's no doubt
oh, he
because
was
I know him
a man.
personally right from my childhood. Theatre and drama. Whether he tried something in folk, and he has written about 8, 10 plays. Those are meant for stage, not for radio or television. Though he has written some very few, I think, for radio also. But other than Motilal Kumu, we have had Hari Krishan Koul, the great short story writer,
Our story writer is a
attempting
great.
attempting to write for stage, and he wrote a beautiful play, which is quite good. That is Natuk Karyopal. Then we had Sajud Salani. He
Yes, yes,
Sajud Salani wrote some plays, Tumitkor, Ropi Rood, Gash Taruk, exclusively for stage. For stage. But again, that is why when you were talking about the craft, you see
yeah, great.
that is where I was talking about workshops. That's where workshops come in. You know,
Mhm.
uh, see, essentially, you have even that happened with television also. When we television came, we had great writers coming. And basically, for 30, 40 years, they had been writing for radio. Once your mind is conditioned for a certain medium, it's very difficult to adapt to a different medium. But then we had no choice. We had to have produced plays. So writers like great writers, Ali Malloon, Akhtar Mohideen, Amil Kamil, great fiction writers. So for them also it was difficult to adapt to screen. Similarly, when you come to a different medium like theater, stage, so you have to have different kind of nuance. So that is
Yeah,
why I'm saying that what we need today is to give some kind of semblance, some kind of standard to theater, which we can call Kashmiri, is produce a bunch of great, good playwrights who contribute 5, 8 plays every year and give them incentive to play,
to
from
play. Yeah.
story to play.
Get them the
It is
workshops
possible.
with the great
Yeah,
masters. Great
there
masters.
are
Yeah.
there are fertile minds in Kashmir. I have no
Yeah.
doubt
No
about
doubt.
that.
No doubt.
Yeah.
No doubt. You have but, actually we have not been able over the years. I remember Ashokji, please forgive me for this. In your times, the academy fee might have been 2,000 per production probably. Now
Yeah,
recently
yeah.
I have heard that it's 50,000, and
50,
yet
yeah.
we all are weeping बेचारगी में यार इन बेचारों को जैसे तैसे कर रहे हैं तो करने दीजिए. This बेचारगी kind of a thing, this irritates me because
Hmm.
ultimately somewhere down the line you have to come out of this whole phobia circle which
You
you have
see,
created. We cannot do. Yeah.
प्रॉब्लम प्रॉब्लम ये है जुगल जी कि थिएटर या कोई भी आर्ट फॉर्म की सरकार की जिम्मेवारी थोड़ी होती है. वी
Very right.
एक्सपेक्टेड सरकार सरकार विल स्टेप इन सम टाइम. मुझे किसी ने एक्टर थोड़ी बनाया इसलिए कि मुझे सरकार पैसा देगी, या किसी को डायरेक्टर बनाया इसलिए थोड़ी बनाया. तो बेसिकली व्हाट ड्राइव्स यू इज योर ओन पैशन एंड कमिटमेंट.
And unless and until you
बेसिक
read, you are
बेसिक इसी
exposed. Yeah.
इसी ग्रेट फिल्म मेकर्स लाइक सत्यजीत रे, लाइक राज कपूर, उन्होंने घर का सामान बेच के पहली फिल्म बनाई. तो उनके
No doubt.
पैशन था यार हमने कुछ करना, दे हैड एन आइडिया बिकॉज दे वर जीनियसेस, सो इट क्लिक्स एंड दे सस्टेन. वो बाद में सरकार के इनाम आए, बॉक्स ऑफिस हिट हो गई, वो तो बाद की बात है ना.
अभी भी we still
तो ये
up
थोड़ी
to
है कि
date,
मैं मैजिक
your
फिल्म.
plays still fascinate us. Your plays still fascinate us. इतने after so
मैं
many
कह रहा
years.
हूँ जुगल जी, वन इंटरेस्टिंग एस्पेक्ट व्हिच आवर पीपल वर may have joined us will be interested to know that the room rent out of while we were rehearsing, we were taking a room on rent like other theatre groups. When we started in 70s, it was 25 rupees rent, monthly rent. And we were a group of 9, 10 youth who were members of the group. It was, such a hard time to collect those 25 rupees. 50 पैसे, 4 आने, पॉकेट मनी, चाय भी अपनी, सेट का पैसा भी खर्च. तो बिकॉज वो पैशन वो ड्राइव कर रहा था. वी नेवर एक्सपेक्टेड कि एकेडमी विल कम, दे विल गिव अस फाइनेंशियल ग्रांट और समथिंग समथिंग. नो. फिर चलो यार ब्रोशर छपाते, उसमें एड से कुछ पैसा करके. सो वी यूज्ड टू गो ऑन फुट. सो एज एन एक्टर यू हैव टू बी a sweeper, you have to be a chai wala, you have to be a salesman, you
Everything.
have to be everything. So, and I tell you a very interesting thing, ultimately, till the time we were there, the rent came to sold up to 35 rupees. Even that was difficult to collect. So this theater group it was a Dar called Dar building, big 4-story building. Ground में उसके shops थे. तो हमारी खिड़की facing that बढ़िया का चढ़ाई थी. So we could have a look. So we would find that owner of the house. He was an old gentleman. He would come with a stick because we had not paid the rent. So we could see him. So what we used to do, एक अपने member को कहा यार बाहर जाओ, बाहर से ताला लगा लो कमरे का, as if we are not here. So to avoid his, so such kind of thing. You see, basically, you have to be drawn to the medium. You see,
That's right. That's right.
everybody, everybody wants this television thing happened. Unfortunate, very substandard thing happened in Kashmir channel, and many bad things happened. Some good things also happened. So everybody overnight became a television scriptwriter. Why? It was money.
It was money.
Everybody
Yeah.
who had never even written a short story became a serial writer.
We were people like us who had seen the exposure of Bombay, and I was the founder member of Natarang International Theatre. When we went to television, we remained for 3-4 years. We could not sustain the atmosphere. It was so unhealthy. just because of this money and other this
हाँ,
games coming
तो
up
मैं
and everything.
अभी भी कहता हूँ, जब भी मौका मिलता है सब यंगस्टर से कहता हूँ, भैया अगर रियल क्रिएटिविटी करनी है, if you are real creative, theater is the only medium. Why?
That's
You
true.
see, film में there are commercial interests bound to be. It's a crores of budget. Nobody will like to sink the money, take a big risk, right? So whatever he is doing, he may try to do something different, but at the end of the day, he has to keep the audience taste in mind, social factors in mind, so many things in mind. Similarly, if you do something with television, it has to crave for popularity. The serial people should like it, then only it will get an extension. But theater is the only medium you can do anything. There is nothing at stake. क्या होगा, लोग गाली देंगे जी पसंद नहीं है, 50 आदमी होंगे, आपने ₹1,00,000 खर्च होगा, चलो ₹1,00,000 डूब गया, 10,000 डूब गए. That's all. But your real creativity, your self-expression will get vent without any restrictions, without any considerations.
And it's an organic.
Because it is not mass media. You're not asking. So for other medias, there are huge financial constraints. So nobody will, because आपका वर्ड का फॉर तो वहीं रहेगी, आपका फेल हो गया, 1 करोड़ सिंक हो गया, तो आप तो पहले हार्ट अटैक से मर जाएंगे. तो राइटिंग और एक्टिंग तो बाद की बात है.
I'm appalled by only one thing, that the play, like such a wonderful movement, theater movement. We did in Jammu, lot many plays we did about all
I
these
know.
people. Girish Karnad also we did. We also did Panikar's plays. We also did. But I'm very appalled about one thing. Such a wonderful theater movement, such a brilliant people in Kashmir. Because there was one festival we organized in Jammu. There was probably End Game. There was Buddha Bulldozer. 5-6
Yes,
plays had come here. We supported them in the university because we are theater goers here. But one thing certainly, I really feel that these people, they still, there is not one play, at least Andayug. Andayug is a
अंदर
play. Andayug is a play which should be probably done by all the great directors. And Ashad Ka Ek Din is the first modern play by this man, probably.
मोहन
Ashad Ka Ek Din,
राकेश.
it has been done in Kashmir. Ashad Ka Ek
Yeah,
Din.
it has been done by one Mr. Pyare Rana attempted it, but it was not a good production. Anyway, it has been
Pyare Rana
staged.
was a theoretician. He was a theoretical personality.
Very
Great
good. He did Waiting for Godot and Endgame in Kashmir.
Acha, he did Waiting for Godot and
Waiting for Godot. Sangarmal under Sangarmal banner.
He was a
They
very knowledgeable person, but practical, I don't know.
जुगल जी, आपकी आवाज फिर क्रैक होने लगी.
फिर हो गई. क्या करें आप. मैं इसको बंद करता हूँ. ये तो बंद ही है. I've closed it. Now it's okay. I don't
अभी
know.
भी आ रही है, अभी क्रैक है. There is some disturbance.
अभी क्रैक है. Now it's okay.
कुछ है.
कुछ तो नहीं होना चाहिए. यहाँ पे तो कुछ भी नहीं है. हेलो. थोड़ा सा है, कुछ फर्क पड़ा.
थोड़ा सा बेटर है, लेकिन है थोड़ी प्रॉब्लम है. क्रैकनेस है.
Change हो जाएगी over the time. अच्छा, let us come to. I wanted to, because this is a very huge subject, theater. I wanted to talk about the spaces, the stage craft, the costumes, the shringar, the music, the light, the development of an actor, the process of development, process of rehearsals. But you have written. First of all, I would like to say now. I would like to rather we are ending towards. It's almost nearing 2 hours.
Yeah.
So I would.
Let us keep something for the other session also.
but only one thing I would like to say.
There is a lot to talk about. Anyway, जी बोलिए.
You are such a preoccupied man professionally as well. My voice is clear now.
Yeah, now it's clear. Yeah.
And you have done to the great service to this theater, to yourself first of all, to theater, to television, and you have been on a very, very acclaimed positions. You are doing the best possible work. Normally, what happens when a person becomes to the rank of additional DG, he becomes a bureaucrat, the great bureaucrat, and he probably walks slow and sulks into the books and his own aura which he creates. But what made you to write the books? Because I really appreciate. I'm really happy for one thing. At least personalities like you, at this age, when you are retired 5-7 years back, I don't know, and you have done so much of work. Still, you want to give to the people. You have written 2 books, probably. I know one is about the theater, introduction of theater, and another is about the television craft. I don't know what are the titles of these papers.
Yeah,
tell us something about this, your authorship.
You see,
right?
this the first book I actually wrote was on theater. So the
Okay.
theater book actually started because, again, for love of my theater, I wanted to, first of all, Kashmiri language. I wanted to contribute something. In
Okay.
Kashmiri language, there's a PG course. Kashmiri has been made a compulsory, language.
Yeah, I heard
But
that. It's a university.
but unfortunately, there's no technical books are not available. You will find a lot of shairi books, poetry, fiction, this that, but nothing on this thing. And since I was associated with theatre, I thought that I must,
Contribute.
introduce the
Mhm.
youngsters to the basic craft of theatre and stage, because I found that there's a genuine interest of
Mhm.
youngsters to acting and other things. And then I thought that it will be a good contribution to Kashmiri. It will be a first of of its kind. So actually, that book I wrote was first came in Kashmiri theatre Akhtaruf, and uh, Professor Rahman Rai was very happy. The Gyatpit Awadi, great poet we have, he wrote the foreword. Subsequently, uh, everybody told me that, yeah, it is such a composite book. There is hardly, it is such a composite book that overall in the country, such a composite book is not available in any language. So why don't you translate it for a wider, readership? So I
Okay.
did some value addition, added some afresh, made it a little up to date, and wrote it in English, an interaction theatre. And I gave the draft to Mr. Girish Karnad, the great Girish Karnad.
Arre, arre, wow.
And he was happy and he wrote the foreword of that book. The English version has the foreword by Mr. Girish Karnad.
Arre,
And
wow.
then very recently, Mr. Avtar Kishan Rahbar, great scholar, I miss him so much. There is difference, and I'll talk to you about him later sometime. A great historian, scholar, writer. He happened to see this English book. He called, I was in Bombay, he called me up from Delhi. He said, yeah, please see that you translate this book into Hindi for wider. This is such a valuable book. So, Mr. My friend, dear friend, Dr. Gauri Shankar Rana, I requested him, yeah, please, तुम time निकाल के इसको translate करो हिंदी में, because Avtar Kishan Rahbar is a mutual friend. He was a mutual friend. So I said, देखो Rahbar साहब इतना insist कर रहे हैं. So he did it. He took a lot of time. He's a very busy man with Sahitya Academy. He's a governing council member, advisory council member. He's busy with his own writings and all. But he did it, and now it has come 3-4 months back. It's available on Flipkart. Theatre Ek Parichay. So it has that interaction by Girish Karnadji.
Arre, wow.
Now about the television book, the reason was that when I was in job as additional director in Delhi, so you must have noticed during 90s when this satellite channels boom came. So a lot of young girls and boys, for a little glamour, for a career option, they wanted to get into television. So the business community, they're very sharp people, marketing people, they cashed on this. So every second gully would have a media institute. In Delhi also, everywhere, small towns, media institute, something, journalism, this, that. So in Delhi, when I was working, I would be invited to one institute, the other, yeah, please come and take a class or come to our institute. So I happened to go to 2-3 such institutes in Noida, Rohini, some one or two places more. And I saw young boys and girls really interested, coming with a lot of passion. And I saw the faculty is non-existent, hardly anybody who knows anything. And there's no study material, nothing. So that actually gave me a thought. I said, yeah, it is exploitation. So but I was very busy. I had no time, frankly speaking. Television job at that higher level is a 24-hour job. Telephone calls in the night. Prime Minister is going this thing. This station has this problem. Something is happening. Political election is this. You have to do a live broadcast of Prime Minister. So all these things, huge responsibility. So one of my very close friends was a great Hindi writer, Maharaj Kishan Shah, and he's an actor, a director also, and a Hindi good, very good. So he and me uh, then we thought that it will be better to get it in Hindi, because English पे कुछ न कुछ film production, TV production, किताबें market में हैं, लेकिन हिंदी में कोई नहीं होगी. So, and he was a Hindi writer. So we co-authored and we wrote that book, Television Karikram
Television.
Nirman. So again, you'll be glad to know that I sent the draft of the book to the great eminent film director Basu Chatterjee,
Arey, wow.
and he wrote the foreword for that.
You wrote,
He
Arey.
liked it, and so the Hindi version got published in 2008 or 9, and it got the national award, very prestigious Bharatendra Harishchandra Award of Ministry of I&B.
Oh my
That book,
goodness.
yeah.
That's great. That's,
And
you
then there was
it
subsequently
deserves.
so much of demand for that book because that publisher whosoever published it, he put it on Amazon. So there's a lot of sales of that book. So my hunch was correct that people want to know about this television thing. So then somebody came and then it got translated into Urdu also. The Urdu version was prescribed as a part of syllabus in Center for Indian Languages of JNU. It's a part of syllabus there, Urdu version. The Hindi version and then it got translated in English also. So that is also available on these, Flipkart, etc. So this television book particularly is a part of syllabus of many institutes, Patiala University, many Masi, Indore, quite a fair number of places.
Universities.
And I was flattered. I will share it with you someday. Somehow, this book, when it was not formally translated by us or published by us, it got illegally translated into English somewhere. Somebody picked up and translated, and it was available in the market somewhere, US, UK. Believe me, I'm not
Oh,
joking.
yeah,
So
very nice.
how I came to know, there's a TV and film critic, one lady. I have her name and I thought she's a film professor in some institute in US.
Okay.
So I saw her in a magazine. I saw a review of books on television
Yeah.
production by Michael Jackson, somebody, something, something. And third, I see television production Ashok Jailkhani Maharaj. I was shocked. यार ये तो आई सेड चलो यार अच्छा हुआ कोई बात नहीं किसने क्या कहाँ ढूंढे किसने किया किसने पायरेसी की क्या किया तो चलो
किसी के
बार
काम
बार ही
तो
हुआ
आई. किसी के काम तो आई.
and she has written such flattering words for that book. She has said, I just quote two sentences, that this book by so and so is a must read for beginners and professionals alike.
Wonderful.
Though it's a small book, it's a 100-page book. So that is how these two books came into being.
That's so great of you. I mean, that certainly that separates you from the rest of the people
So
of your genre.
I have I have a huge journey of broadcasting with a lot of uh, anecdotes. So if you have time or we share time, if
We'll do
you are
something.
kind enough, you can try and write a book on my journey of broadcasting
Certainly, we'll do if you
with
have
your
time.
command on language and all. It will be a good. And it's a very
We'll do something.
it it,
You are a
it,
great
it will be a book of common interest.
you are a great giver, and I always thought whenever I wanted to bring, although we didn't go into the history and other things, but certainly I wanted that the practical theater, if we have to talk about genuinely, there is no one else. Pran Kishore ji is too old, and there is another only
Yeah,
one person which I find in all the lot. All are great, all are respectable, but that is Ashok Jailkhani ji.
yeah. Thank you
Besides
so much.
television, besides broadcasting, I am
Thank
so
you so much.
grateful. And ये जो आपकी books है ना, this has created so much respect in my heart about you,
Thank
because
you.
normally all people become selfish at the end. We talk about
I know. I know.
ourselves, our names. You have given something back to the society.
I know.
So
I know.
let's conclude it. I wanted to talk about the traditional theater, Banpathar, and other things, but it's a long subject. We cannot
Yeah,
go
it's a
on
very
and on.
long time. You see, to
So
to cut it on an optimistic note, recently you must have also heard it that National School of Drama is opening some kind of branch in Srinagar also,
yeah, yeah, yeah.
trying to give out a 1-year diploma
Yeah, yeah.
courses. So I think that will be a good impetus
That will be
to
good. There
theatre.
are brilliant boys, brilliant youngsters
That
there,
will be
youngsters.
that will give a little flip again to the movement.
बट अगेन वही है ना, वो मैं उसका उनका एक शेर में
नहीं फिर
बोल.
देखिए ना जुगल जी ये भी आपको अप्रिशिएट करना है कश्मीर के हवाले से दैट 88 things turned bad. The only performing auditorium was burned down to ashes. And nobody all these years could think of theater or doing a play or
No, it's not
audience
possible.
would come. So there was a huge normal gap of 30 years, 40 years. Yeah. So now
भूखे
you have
मजे
to
ना
pick up
होए
a
तो
thread. You have to pick up threads from there. It's a very
इट्स
Herculean
वेरी
task.
डिफिकल्ट, वेरी डिफिकल्ट.
Herculean
इट्स वेरी
task.
बाहर
The
से
whole,
सोच कर
whole,
वो.
whole thing, momentum was shattered.
No, no.
It is still in pieces.
Ashok ji, in the conclusion, I would like to say one thing more. I've taken a lot of your time, but still, I will say that theater should provoke us to think something
True, true,
besides.
true,
Theater should
true.
reflect something, and theater is because life is dynamic. Without life, because source of life is not dynamic. Shiva is not dynamic. The Shakti is
Yeah,
dynamic. So
yeah, yeah.
when
The creation is dynamic. Source is
when we
not
are in
dynamic. The creation is dynamic
creation
always.
is dynamic.
Yeah,
Creation is dynamic. Huh? So
true.
we are the theater is dynamic because it is the life, it is the organism, it is dynamic. But at the same time, its source is very calm. Its
Yeah,
source is Slavskian, that thinking. Everything starts from because Albert Einstein says that everything starts from the peace, tranquility, the ultimate calm, as you had done your place. But I would like to say again, I don't want to sound negative, but I would to say that nowadays in this world which has shrunk into a small village, and there are n number of opportunities. And as Mahesh Bhatt said one day, just 10 years back, now everybody is one's hero. He can pick up a camera, write a story, and shoot it.
true, true,
And
true,
he
true.
makes a film. Everybody is a filmmaker.
And people are doing it. People have shot films on mobiles and they have been acclaimed.
They would
People
acclaim.
are doing it.
So
Yeah,
times have changed now, and
everything is changed.
this has created a restlessness also.
You
It
see,
has given
everybody,
knowledge. Yeah,
journalism was a, what do you call, a specialized job. Now,
once
with social media, everybody is a sort of a journalist now.
everybody is a journalist now.
Everybody is a
So,
journalist. No? They
so
give
but one
comments.
thing, yeah, you being the very competent and a brilliant broadcaster, theater icon, author, I would like you to say something about this to the artistic community, how to deal with this dichotomy, this oxymoron of abundance of knowledge on the internet, abundance of this reservoir, abundance of choices, and be stable as an artist.
That it's a very tricky question, Jugalji, but it is true. I can find myself. You are sometimes so overburdened with this internet and social media and all the things hitting you that you have to shut down. You have to shut down. It is a must, and
Otherwise, delusion.
into a go into your inner shell. You see, it is very important. You need time and space for contemplation. That is for every artist. So 24 hours or 18 hours, leave aside this hours you spend in sleeping, if you are hooked on to these kinds of influences and visually, you become dull. Your brain does, it is okay that when you read something or watch something or listen to something, it registers somewhere in subconscious. But you need to shut down occasionally and deliberately to get into your inner shell and contemplation. Then only you can come out with something
Come on,
fresh, new. So that is my advice to everybody. That please and please,
Ashok,
for God's sake, you see, for
yes.
television, we used to say, for television, the nickname is Eated Box. Why? Because when you watch television, you just watch. Your mind is blank. You just flow. You don't think. Now, when you read a book or you listen to radio, your internal imagination is at work.
Radio is the
That doesn't happen. That doesn't happen with the Idiot Box. So your mind is blank. Whatever I'm, feeding
virtual,
you, you are
virtual.
going with it. You are. I can say you are brain dead.
Your brain dead. You are in a coma.
So that is about television. So this social media and network and internet is 1,000 times more dangerous. 1,000 times in that sense. See,
That's so
everything has plus and
that's so
minus. There are
wonderful.
plus things, but you
It
have
is
to draw a line. You can't just flow with it.
on and
There
on,
has
on
to
and
be
on.
a line. There has to be a demarcation.
You have to avoid becoming a delusion of
Yes,
yourself,
yes.
and an
True,
idiot, a caricature of yourself.
true, true,
I would
true.
like to close with this couplet. आपके सावन में शरारत ये मेरे साथ हुई, आपके सावन में शरारत ये मेरे साथ हुई, मेरा घर छोड़ के कुल शहर में बरसात हुई. ये गोपाल दास नीरज का शेर शेर है, और ये बेचारगी के ऊपर मैंने बोला है. जो हम बेचारे
बहुत
बनते हैं ना, when Ashok Jailkhani could do it in 2000, and Balwant Thakur could do it in
And
1000.
we had no reason, we had no resources, absolutely no
They had no
resources.
resource, and now
It,
50,000. Yet this bechargi, and
no,
we all pamper these people. This is
I
not good.
find, that type of theater, 50,000 is a respectable amount. It is not a bad amount.
You can create a good grand production out of it and do
It's a
wonderful.
respectable amount.
Sir, it was Ashokji. It was really great talking to you. It was superb. I really loved every word of it. But time pata nahi laga kaise pass ho gaya 2 hours.
जी जी
But
जी
then
now
again, there are many
सवा
many many
सवा 2 घंटे हुए सवा 2 घंटे
many many.
नहीं जुगल
Thank
जी
you very much.
it,
You
it,
came.
it,
It
was,
was
it
our
was nice
greatness.
talking to you. You are it is always a pleasure, and to talk to an enlightened person like you are an enlightened person. So
Pleasure.
I am very happy and grateful. Thank you. Namaskar.
Thanks a lot. Thanks a lot.
Namaskar.
So that was Ashok Jailkhani ji, the eminent broadcaster, the eminent, the I mean, theater personality, a legend, an author, a giver. I hope you enjoyed this conversation today, and certainly this is going to, remain in our memories for quite a period of time. And thank you very much that you all glued to this program today. We are going to have another wonderful session, another wonderful program, another historic program next Sunday at 7 p.m. Till then, goodbye. Best of luck.